Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. We're back in place. We're back on the case. So welcome back to Backlit Cinema, the podcast. I'm your host, Zoe, that's Z-O or Z-O if you're outside of the U.S., taking a look back at the movies of yesteryear. It's the 104th episode. Thank you for downloading and streaming. We really appreciate it. We watch movies that I loved when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. If you like what you're about to hear, then please share this show with your friends and family. Tell people about us so that we can grow up to be big and strong. And now I am pleased to announce that I have some very special guests on the program. I first found out about them listening to For Our Nerds, and then I started listening to their podcast. And you might have heard them as guests on For Our Nerds yourselves. You may have heard them on their own podcast, The Black Guy Who Tips. They are family, they are intelligent, they're fabulous, they're extremely entertaining. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to introduce Rod, a.k.a. Rodimus Prime, and Karen. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on the show. How are you feeling today?
Good, man. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. I know this has been months in the making and months in planning to get this thing here together, and I appreciate you, sticking with it and through all the ups, the changes in my schedule and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the same thing happen on my end. It's just life getting in the way. It's one of the things that makes me so nervous about planning for the future, because I'm always cognizant that things can go wrong or go sideways, or I'm just afraid that I'm not going to be able to roll with the punches, as it were. But we were able to do it, and I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Karen, let me ask you, how did you and Rod meet? If I might get a little personal off the bat.
Me and Roger have actually known each other since elementary school. So we, kind of quote unquote met each other when we were a lot younger. But we didn't start dating until we were 16, and we've been together ever since.
That's super appropriate to wait until you were 16. Like you didn't start when you were 5.
Wait, of age.
The incredible restraint that you two have shown, and it's amazing that you've basically known each other all of your lives. I don't think I know anybody outside of my family that I've known my entire life. So that's an amazing story.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We go all the way back to the same neighborhood and talking on the phone in 4th grade and in the summertime and watching cartoons together and stuff. So
yep. And every time when we talk, it's like the conversation never ends until either his mama, my mama, better get off that phone.
So, Rod, how did you guys decide to do? I mean, you got, like you mentioned, over 2,000 episodes. How did you even come to a conversation about starting a podcast?
Honestly, I'm a big fan of this podcast to this day called Keith and the Girl. 2 people that just live in New York. They were like regular folks. They had a podcast. They made a studio in their 2nd bedroom of the place they stayed, and there was an episode where someone was ragging on them, talking about how easy it was to do their jobs. They only have to work an hour a day, and they responded with, a very sincere, well, if it's so easy, why don't you just do it, And I remember listening going, you know what, but, the most important part of that answer is, why don't you just do it? And I was like, yeah, there's no gatekeeper that's stopping me from starting a show. And the conversations that Karen and I have been having since, like we said, we were in 4th grade or something, we know how to talk to each other, and I just thought we should start a show with each other. And Karen wasn't sure she wanted to do it, which is why it's called The Black Guy Who Tips and not The Rod and Karen Show, because she was already making an exit strategy of
I was. I'm just
wasn't good at
surprised
it,
when people listen to the show. they actually just expect like a black guy complaining about tipping or something like that, and then it's like me surprise.
And then
Right.
I agree with it only because I never had any plans of doing it with anyone else or her not being on the show, but whatever it took to get her on the show, I was like, sure, and then 2,600 episodes later, we're still doing it. So that I feel like it worked out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you guys, you basically have an episode almost every day then, right?
So most of the time we try to do the show 5 days a week. We take normally a week off every month or so. And then, with extenuating circumstances, like currently I'm writing for a TV show in New York City, which is not where we stay. So with all that stuff, sometimes we can go down to, a couple of shows a week or something. But yeah, we typically on a perfect week, we would probably record 4 to 5 regular episodes.
Yeah,
and
regular episode. Yeah, that's not including the premium episodes.
Too.
That's awesome. That's pretty awesome. Because like just me doing one episode a week, it's a thing, right? It's a thing. And I find it amazing that somebody can do it like 5 days a week. Yeah, like, and then I listen to your episodes. It's super high quality, and it's just nice listening to you just talk about stuff that's going on around us, and then you get that the audience feedback is one of the things I'm most impressed by, right? Where people get to call in and chime in, and basically they have their opinions heard. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's the hardest part, I think, for most podcasters. If you're listening to the show right now, write in, leave a comment,
5-star
hit them up on
reviews.
Twitter, email. Yeah, because there's so many of us that are making content now, especially after the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel like you're just screaming into the void, and if you don't get that feedback, it's like, is anybody even into this? Am I just doing it for myself? And the worst way to find out you got fans is after you give up, and then people are like, man,
right.
what happened to the show? I didn't think anybody was listening.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna continue to do this for the few people who don't talk to me and provide feedback, who apparently are they're out there somewhere. Every once in a while I'll get something. But
yeah,
I'm just
what your download or listening numbers are, so you would know if 0 people were listening. So
right.
It's
right.
Like, even if it was 10 people, it's like, holla at your boy, let me know.
Right. Sometimes you look at it and like, well, 0 people listen to it this day.
Yeah. Now we were fortunate that we started so early in the game that there wasn't that many black podcasts at the time, but then also it's like when nobody was really listening to us, it was when nobody was really listening to podcasts. So
right.
We could just chalk it up to that, like, oh, they just don't know what a podcast is, but maybe it just took us a while to get an audience.
Right. So Karen, you're a teacher, right?
No, I'm not a teacher. Even though I went to school for teaching.
Yeah.
And then was like, they don't pay them enough.
See that I needed to ask that question because that's the impression I got when I was listening to your show. So, so what is it that you find fulfilling in life? What is fulfilling to you?
As far as just in general, or as
just in general. Because I was going to ask you about your teaching job, but you're not a teacher, so I can't ask about that. So in general,
that's not about what's fulfilling in life. And I'm a very simple person. What's fulfilling in life is just the ability to wake up every day and just have the movement of my body and have a husband that loves me and have a family that loves me. Just the simple things. Sometimes I think we can make life more complex than it has to be. And we can forget that there are some fundamental things that just keeps you grounded. And so those are the things that keep me going and keep me energized and keep me doing the things, that I do every day. Just the fact that I wake up every day and I know that I have family that loves me and friends that love me, or the family that I chose that loves me, whatever it is, just know that I'm surrounded by love.
That's pretty awesome. And Rod, given that your nickname, or you are also known as Rodimus Prime, I know that the Transformers are fulfilling to you. I know you're ready for Rise of the Beast Wars, or
Oh yeah.
whatever they're calling the next installment. And I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I wanted to ask you about something else. I wanted to ask you, how did you get your job on Game Theory? Because this seems to be like your first writing credit.
Yeah, it's definitely my first writing credit. My only one, Yeah, so I'm a fan of this guy, Bomani Jones, sports analyst, radio host, podcast host, all that stuff. We kind of became friends over the years because I was a listener to his show, and especially when he had a show on satellite radio, it was a situation where I was able to like call in because it was just happened to coincide with when I got a break at work, and right as he was getting into like the end of the show and was ready to go home, and he was like, "I'm running out of new topics and takes. Let's wrap this thing up." And I would just make notes throughout the show, and certain topics or jokes or something that you could kind of embellish on that maybe he hadn't thought about in that way, or just add something to the show, another perspective, whatever. And gently, like I wasn't when I'm not big into debating sports. I'm not, so I never called up to be like, brother, listen, nah, the Giants gonna win. Like I wouldn't do that. I just call up and be like, oh, that thing you said about Tim Tebow, what else is funny is this thing, right? And so we became pretty cool, and I told him a long time ago he had lost his job at a radio station that was just kind of a short-sighted station, but he lost his job, and he was just kind of like, through Twitter you could kind of just like tweet, talk to him every once in a while. And I remember talking to him. I think I called him or something and just told him like, bro, you're gonna this is such a they fucked up getting rid of you. You're going to be a big deal. You're gonna look back at this one day and we're gonna be laughing like, remember when you used to go to the mall and sit in the massage chairs because you just didn't have nothing else to do, because and like he started getting on like around the horn and then highly questionable stuff, and he blew up. And so he had told me back when we had that conversation, like, if I ever get my own show, have you ever thought about writing? And I said no, and honestly, I thought he was just trying to be nice. You know what I'm saying? You know how like you say something, a compliment
They
to
say that all the time.
Yeah, and I'm like, you don't have to I was like, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to like get something from you. I just genuinely believe you're like going to be like you're a star in this game, and you're gonna be a star one day. And so anyway, now it's the decade later, he gets this show on HBO, and they need writers for it. And one of the producers at the time suggested me. He said, "What about this Rodimus Prime guy on Twitter?" So he didn't even know me and Bo go back like that or any of that stuff. And he just and then Bo was like, "Yeah, you know what? I know him. I'll ask him." And so he called me and asked me, did I want to submit? And I said, in my mind I was thinking like, not really. I want to be like a TV show writer. That wasn't like my dream, and I love doing the podcast. And and I was a little bit of like, damn, I have to move, or like, am I gonna have to move? Like, what does this mean? Like my anxiety started kicking in. But I don't know. I just fought against it, and because I love Bo. I said, whatever I got to do to support, I'm gonna do it. And I feel like it would be whack of me to not even try after he felt this strongly about this thing. And so I said, yeah, I'll try. And then of course he then goes, hey, it's not like it's my decision. This is a blind submission contest, meaning your name's not gonna be on it, so it won't be like they're gonna say this is Rod's submission and I'm just gonna go, all right, pick him. And he's like, it's gonna be people that are seasoned in this game. comedians, all kinds of people that's been writing for all kinds of shows. So like, I'm not guaranteeing you a spot. I'm just saying, would you like to try? You know? And I said, sure, I'll try. And I submitted. We had like a week to submit our first packet. I think I submitted it the first night I got it. Because in my mind, I said, when we do the show, if I get this job, I need to know that I can work under pressure. I don't think they're gonna be giving us a week to write stuff at this job. They're gonna, if a show is coming out every week, that you're gonna be writing incrementally every day. It's not, you don't just show up on Friday like, here you go. So I passed it, and I passed it like the highest marks of anybody. And so then we had to do a second round. And I don't know if I had the highest marks of anybody, but I know I had like very good marks. Like only one person, like they scored from 1 to 3, and I think only I had like all ones and a 2 or something, or all ones and a 3 or something. I had like passing marks, which is kind of unheard of for somebody that's never done this job before. I had to like write them to be like, hey, what does this term mean? How do
Right.
how do I express that I want something to be on the TV screen behind him and him talking about it at the same time? I need to learn that language. And so, yeah, man, I ended up getting it. And, we did the first season last year. I think we had 6 episodes, and it went really, really well. And we got renewed, and now we got 10 episodes. And my episode, quote unquote, around my, because, a lot of people help when you write these shows. No one's really writing these shows by themselves, but the episode that I wrote a lot of the deep dive for just aired this Friday. And so, I'm really proud.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. That sounds like an amazing journey.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, really
And
good.
continued success. I hope you go up to 10 seasons. I hope Karen has to move out to New York with you, right?
That's what people keep
listen,
asking me. They be like, are you going to move to New York? I was like, well, they're going to have to pay that New York City money. And also, I hate the cold.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have to
Right,
compensate me for the cold.
Right. Well, generally speaking, the longer you're on the program or show or at a job, the more money that you should get, I would think.
Right.
I mean, at the very least, you would gain seniority given, like as people come and go and you stay on the show, then you would gain seniority, and that should come with
Oh
better
yeah, it's
living
definitely like
expenses.
it's definitely like some stuff HBO got to figure out. Like I don't know enough about the process because once again, this is all new to me, but I do know like it all depends on how HBO decides to like move forward. If they renew it, how many episodes they renew it. Sometimes like we got renewed for 10 episodes, which is good. It went from 6 to 10. But some of these shows you see like a John Oliver or Bill Maher, they could have like 2 seasons in a year, where it's like 10 episodes from January to March, and then 10 episodes from August to October or something. And so it, and then they just do that every year for the next 10 years. And, I think if it was something like that, I would have to consider moving up here for real because, I don't want to be away from home that long 2 and 3 times a year. I'd rather just be in one place with Karen so we could do that. But I the whole time with this process, I've just been treating it like we'll cross that hurdle when we get to it. I'm not getting too ahead of myself because too much is out of my control. I'm just a writer, so you start moving your stuff up here and then find out it's not getting renewed or Bo's going on a sabbatical or something. It's like,
you never know.
Right. Yeah, that I mean, that sounds like the way I would do it. Very cautiously and timidly, and before I'm like, before I go full force, especially in a place like New York.
Oh, yeah.
So, now I want to ask you to share your social media with our listeners. So where can they follow you? Tell them about your podcast. You already told them about the show Game Theory with Bomani Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So let them know about how they can follow you. Where can they find you?
Karen, you got it.
Oh, they can follow everything about the podcast at theblackguywhotips.com. They can follow us on social media on Twitter. I am Say That Again. That is in DAT. Rod is at Rodimus Prime. And we are
Awesome.
the
And
Black
that's
Guy.
across Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, on Twitter, like, so is the personal stuff on Twitter is all different versus Instagram. You know, it's crazy, but the brand, if you just search, Google the Blackout Tips,
Will pop up.
Instagram, TikTok, whatever social
Twitter,
medias we're
Facebook.
on.
Yeah, we'll pop up as
Yeah,
that
just the
across all
Blackout Tips.
platforms.
Yeah, you can also use the initials for the show, TBGWT, and it'll also take you everywhere you need to go.
Right. Awesome. So that's it for our short interview and conversation section. So now I want to go ahead and transition over to our opening segment, and we're going to talk about the movie that we just recently watched. And so now let us talk about the movie that we had just watched, Die Hard with a Vengeance. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this movie?
All right. A terrorist group is setting off bombs in New York City and blackmailing the NYPD with death and destruction. The terrorist, Simon, wants the police to solve a series of riddles, but not just any police. Simon has his sights set on Lieutenant John McClain. With the help of Zeus, a reluctant citizen, a black citizen, John sets out to play a deadly game of Simon Says.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny how you said a black citizen because that is exactly what plays into that. That's part of the subplots or the plot points of the movie. So, Karen, why don't you tell us more about this movie?
It was released in May 19th, 1995, produced by 20th Century Fox. It grossed over $100 million in the U.S. and Canada and $366 million worldwide, and a $90 million budget. It had apparently mixed reviews. I loved it when it came out. But
yeah, I loved it too. But if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, there are some differences. So and I can kind of see what they're talking about. But it's just one of those movies. I remember watching it in a movie theater and totally enjoying it. It's one of those things like you're waiting for. It's like, yeah, another Die Hard movie. I'm going. It doesn't matter. It was like before the Marvel movies. It was stuff like Die Hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like I'm going. So let's talk about who was starring in this movie. This movie starred Bruce Willis as John McClain. You may have seen him in Pulp Fiction, The Sixth Sense, Red, and I first knew him. I first became a huge fan of Bruce Willis in a little TV show called Moonlighting, and it's a damn shame that it's not streaming anywhere.
It also has Jeremy Irons as Simon Craig, aka Simon Peter Gruber. You may know him from Dead Ringers, The Lion King from 1994, and The Man in the Iron Mask from 1998.
Also, the reluctant citizen, Samuel L. Jackson, Zeus Carver, he did Secret Invasions, The Marvels, The Kill Room, Marvel Snap Game, which I've never played.
I do.
Oh, have you played it, Rod?
I love Marvel Snap. It's my jam. It's my crack right now.
Yeah,
it's my crack. I get super addicted. I feel like I'm going to play for like a couple minutes, and I end up playing for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I spend way too much time in it.
Oh yeah.
And the movies mentioned, or the TV shows and movies that were mentioned, there are things that he's going to appear in. Apparently, they're in post production. I have no idea what the Kill Room is. I'm excited to see what that's all about. Apparently, there's going to be some killing going on. And Marvel Snap just has introduced a new mode where you can do direct peer-to-peer challenges. So you don't just have to challenge somebody who's totally random on the internet. You can challenge somebody directly.
Yeah.
So I find that exciting. The thing that keeps me playing it is that it's just strategizing. When I play a card and it works out totally perfectly, and I win like that particular hand. It's like there's something. The dopamine levels that shoot through my brain is astronomical. So that's what keeps me
for
playing.
me, I like whenever things are going wrong and it looks like I am going to lose and my strategy isn't working, and then I salvage it somehow on the last move. That's like, it doesn't get any better than, you can't plan it, but it just doesn't get better than just when you realize, wait a minute, if I put this card here, they'll never see it coming, you know?
Right. Like when you're able to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat. Like when somebody plays a Killmonger and kills all my cards, I was like, nah. It's like, what now? And then I'm able to play something and it's able to salvage the game.
Yeah, not to get too nerdy in detail, but like mine is when someone plays like a hobgoblin and they give me negative on like round 5, and then they don't know I got Odin on round 6.
Yes.
And I just send them back like, nah, that's your boy. You hang out with the boy.
Oh man, the first time I did that was like an aha moment, you know. It's like, or here's another thing. Here's an undefeated combo is when you have the Kamal or wherever Doctor Strange is from. When you get that space, and then you're able to play what's his name?
You play Wong at Kamal, so you get 4 times the effects.
Right. You get Wong, and then you get Odin, and you get you play what's her name? Ironheart, and then play Odin. Yeah. And you play all of them, and then it just goes on forever. Right? Yeah. One time I was able to get Thor in one space, and then the Hammer in the Wong space, and then Odin in the Wong space, and then Ironheart in the Wong space. It's like it went on forever. It went on for like a minute, just powering up all of my figures. All right, I apologize to the audience for nerding out on Marvel Snap. I love that game, and if you haven't played it, you should play it too. So moving right along, we got Graham Greene, who plays Joe Lambert. He's been in The Green Mile, Maverick, and Dances with Wolves.
Colleen Camp, who plays Connie Kowalski. She's been in Silver, Clue, and Wayne's World.
Larry Magan, Bragan. I was say it's a bunch of G's in there.
Yeah,
I want to say it's Brigman.
Okay, thank you, Brigman.
Yeah, they just threw the G's in
because the G's threw me. I was like, it's double G's.
Yeah. It's for the audience to spell BYRGGMAN, and I think it's Brigman. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm confident.
He played Arthur Cobb. He was in the Spy Games and Justice for All, 1979, the year I was born. Shout out to that. And As the World Turns. Soap operas?
Right. Yeah, I put that in there because if anybody knows him from anywhere, it's going to be from As the World Turns, because he's been on there forever. Like when you look at his IMDb credit, it's like For the World Turns, like for his entire life. So also, I'm not sure if it's Arthur Cobb. That's the police captain that Bruce Willis, I said the whole wrong name. Bruce Willis has to deal with. So that's the police captain in charge of the whole thing. And I'm not sure if it's, I thought I heard Wayne Cobb, or it could be Arthur Cobb. I got confused with the name, but that's that person. Okay. So up next is Sam Phillips. She played Katya, and she's been in End of Violence and Gilmore Girls. So they don't mention her name, I don't think, in the movie, but that's the female assassin. Yeah. That killed that dude with the knife.
Yeah.
Does she even have a line? Or she just stares intensely?
They actually told her that she was mute in the movie.
That makes sense.
She's just like clearly a character written by like a straight white dude. You know?
Yes,
like just a complete like, she's sexy, she's hot, she's crazy. And she doesn't care about the money. She just wants to have sex with you. It's like
and kill people.
Yeah.
But they had like like Colleen, and she's a confident female character.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
or
I'm not
Connie.
saying every character, but that
Right, but that one specifically,
one-
right.
that was like he had to get one for himself. You know, he's like,
Right.
we got some real strong independent women and all that stuff, but I need one woman that's just gonna make me rock hard. So I'm gonna write
Right.
I need
out
to
of a
ride or
porno.
die. I was like, oh
This-
yeah, this is definitely the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Right. This one is for me.
Right. Kevin Chamberlain, who plays Charles Weiss, Road to Perdition, and the Emoji Movie. Oh man, so sorry.
Oh, okay, Emoji Movie.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Shit.
things went good. They went from extremely good to bad in 2 movies.
Right.
Real quick. Sharon Washington, Officer Jane, Joker, and Michael Clayton. What's the name of it?
So
Okay.
if she didn't have a lot of airtime in this movie, but she was the first one to receive the call. She was the black officer that received the call about I guess when the terrorists first called in, and she told the captain, "You have to take this." And in Joker, she was the Joker's caseworker.
Yeah.
It was that same woman.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So lastly, also not having a lot of screen time in this movie, but an important character nonetheless, played by Aldrich Hodge. He played Raymond, and he's been in Hidden Figures and Black Adam.
Yeah.
So
he was also in.
he was
the Underground. That TV.
Oh, right. I never
Yeah.
watched the Underground. I totally missed that.
He
one.
was great in it.
He's
Yes.
right. He was great in Black Adam. That was a lot of people's favorite character as Hawkman. And then when you see him here, I asked Zach. I watched the movie with Zachary, and I asked him if he had seen it, and if he had known who Aldrich Hodge was. Like, who? I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, see that younger kid right there? That's Black Adam. I mean, not Black Adam, but that's Hawkman. That's the guy who played Hawkman. So let's talk about who directed this movie.
Yep, directed by John McTiernan, who did Rollerball, Last Action Hero, Hunt for Red October, Predator, and Basic, which is his last movie. He spent a year in jail for illegal wiretapping.
Oh snap!
Yeah. I thought that he stopped making movies because the last 2 movies, I mean, none of his movies were like, except for Die Hard. When you look at most of his movies, they never really made a whole bunch of money. Like even this movie, Die Hard with a Vengeance, it's I think this is his last Die Hard movie, his second and last Die Hard movie. But even this movie, even though it was like the highest grossing worldwide, it only made $100 million in the U.S. and Canada, which means that had it not had a worldwide release, it would have been a flop. So it just, and then you don't actually get a lot of money. Like studios don't actually get a lot of money from the studio or from the releases worldwide because there's so many fees and whatnot that have to be paid. So they don't get as much back as what they do with the domestic box office. But it did make a lot of money. But the rest of these movies, like, even though I love The Last Action Hero, it didn't make a lot of money. Oh, The Hunt for the Red October, it did do great, but and Predator did great. But like Rollerball,
honestly, that 5 movies plus this one is a pretty good run.
Right.
You know.
But he did some, I think it was like Rollerball and Basic that kind of did him in.
Yeah.
And oh man, I hated Basic. I wanted to like it so bad, but
yeah,
it was so bad. Like, you know, when you go to a movie and you specifically go because you know it's going to be good and it turns out not good. It's like when you're thirsty for some Kool-Aid, like you want some cherry Kool-Aid, and you know you made some cherry Kool-Aid, and you know it's chilling in the refrigerator, and you open it up and it ain't but a swallow left, and now you mad, not because Kool-Aid is bad. You mad because you specifically wanted some Kool-Aid, and there ain't no more Kool-Aid left, and somebody didn't drink all the Kool-Aid. That's how mad I was at Basic. So
It didn't even have the courtesy to make no new Kool-Aid.
Right. Or drink all of it. Right? Don't leave a
drink
swallow
it all
in the
up.
refrigerator. Drink the rest of it. Don't tease me with just a little drop Kool-Aid because you wanted to. And people do that because they're like, well, at least they can't say I drank all of it. Well, you might as well have.
Yeah,
So
that was like
anyway,
I just
go
saw
ahead.
he has one movie upcoming, but Basic is the last movie he did. So like he has a hole in his resume from 2003 to 2023.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah, it's a pretty big hole. I mean, nothing, no commercials, no shorts, no TV. Just
He said he was
he's
done
just
with the
in
industry.
MI.
Like
Maybe
something happened, but he was like, "I'm out."
right. Well, when you get put in a pen for a year for illegal wiretapping, that'll do something to you.
I guess it will. And it might put him on a blacklist more than anything. It's like he might have wanted to come. It was like, no, you still hot in these streets.
Right.
We can't be dealing
So,
with that. For me, it's
why don't you tell us about the writer?
written by Jonathan Hensley. If I don't think I pronounced that right. Yeah, Hensley. Hensley, he did The Punisher in 2004, Armageddon, The Saint. Based on the characters Roderick Thrope. Die Hard is based on Nothing Never Lasts, 1979. Shout out to 1979, y'all. Sequel to The Detective, 1966. The detective movie starring Frank Sinatra.
Right. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but Frank Sinatra, because he was in the first movie that was based on the first book, when they decided to do Die Hard, which is supposed to be based on the second book, Nothing Lasts Forever, they had to reach out to Frank Sinatra, who is fairly old by the time they decided to start in this movie. They had to reach out to him to see if he wanted to play this part. So I'm like, can you imagine Frank Sinatra jumping out the top of a skyscraper with an explosion behind him, with what you call it, a water hose, a fireman hose,
yeah.
Strapped to, tied to his back.
I'm kind of glad he turned it down. Terrible. He's not made of that Sylvester Stallone brand and Arnold Schwarzenegger, where they're like, we're gonna do this forever,
Right.
They expand it.
And for real, like for me, he's not even that great of an actor. He's an actor the same way The Rock is an actor. So it's like he's popular in another medium, and so he kind of transitioned over to acting, and they like him because they like him as a singer, so they want to see him as an actor, but not because he's like a really strong actor. But he's been in a fair amount of movies though, and I'm glad that he didn't. I think if like he agreed to do it, the movie wouldn't move forward. It was like, nah, we changed our mind. We're not doing this movie.
I would not green like that.
But
no.
Right. So, I was gonna say something. So Roderick Thorpe, he wrote a bunch of books. So based on a few movies, but Die Hard is the one that he's most famous. Basically, that's what he's known for. So the music is by Michael Kamen. He has 97 composer credits to his name. He's written music for Open Range, X-Men, and The Iron Giant. He has a very impressive list of credits on IMDb. So, and plus where even he's just in the music department or stuff that he's been uncredited for. Fairly good. I have to hand it to him. So that's it for the opening credits. If you're enjoying the show, remember that you can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, face masks, jerseys, and more at our website, backlickcinema.com/shop. So up next, after this next musical cue, we're going to talk about our favorite parts. All right, now we're back. We're back to talk about our favorite parts of the movie. This is like the meat and potatoes of the show. So, Karen, Rod, which one of you want to start off and talk about your favorite parts of the movie?
You can go, Karen.
This movie, I haven't seen this movie in years, so it was a big nostalgia thing for me. My favorite parts of the movie was remembering what it was like when you had payphones / cell phones, like brick era, type of thing, and them talking about beepers and things like that. Like, it was just such a fun ride to be like, oh yeah, you wouldn't be able just to check online to see if a bombing was trending and GPS is like, you wouldn't have all the technology that we have today. And it was really a joy to see the car chases through like the parks and like the taxis, and because the way they was driving those vehicles, I was like, oh, y'all are whipping the hell out of these vehicles. Like, what are these vehicles made out of? Like, no vehicle has this good of suspension. Like, like, these vehicles will be dead. They, like, bouncing around, barely hitting people, doing 360s while somebody shooting guns out the windows. I was like, there's no way these cars could really take this beating and keep trucking. I actually had a ball. I know this is not a movie review, but I give it a 10 out of 10.
One of the things when you mentioned the car chases, that during one of the car chase, I think they were in a Mercedes Benz, and McClain asked Zeus to rip out the controls for the ABS brakes, rip out the the circuit for it. And I'm thinking to myself, why are we bothering? Because it's already why are we dealing with this little plot point? It's so unnecessary.
But it was a big thing back in the day because that was kind of new.
Yeah, it was new, but it was a Mercedes Benz, so they would have all the newest stuff. And I'm like, you could just do the turn that you're trying to do, and the audience wouldn't care.
No, it's Die Hard. We know what we signed up for.
Right, you've already done all the things. You don't have to give this little factoid.
For me, I think some of my favorite things, Samuel Jackson's character, Zeus. When I was going to see this movie, because this is my favorite genre of movie, Impossible White Man movies. Die Hard is, on the Mount Rushmore of these type of movies, and Die Hard with a Vengeance isn't far behind. And I love that they were like, after Die Hard 2, they were like, guys, we gotta bring back the black sidekick, okay? Like, it just don't hit the same. We had Carl Winslow in that first one. We gotta get an iconic black character, and Zeus is an iconic black action character. They don't kill him at the end, which is also a great thing. Like, it doesn't become like a lesson for this white man to learn. But the thing that
you're referring to the magical Negro now, like when you talk about a lesson for the white man to learn, this when you start tripping into the magical Negro trope.
Yeah, and so that's actually what I liked about this character so much is Zeus is not a magical Negro, even though he does help the white man on his journey. It's not a journey that is enlightened and informed, and in some ways, maybe to a disappointing degree for people. But like John McClain doesn't end this with like a racial understanding. Like this movie ends with him kind of in the same place of like, that, thanks for helping. But yeah, I'm not like gonna be coming to your house for dinner tonight.
I'm not gonna be marching in no Black Lives Matter marches.
Right. And then
I feel that John McClain is the type of white person who say, well, I'm not racist, but it's like but not fully understanding what racism is. It's like he's not racist, but at the same time you're not anti-racist either.
You donate to the charity.
Right.
John McClain feels like he would not like that Kaepernick kneeled. You know what I mean? Like he would be very upset by that. But the other thing I wanted to say too as a favorite was just, and is, kind of like they didn't have much choice at the time with the way technology was, but rewatching this, it really makes the movie hold up. Just how many practical effects they used, like,
oh yeah.
Sometimes, there's a couple moments where it does look terrible, like the water rushing into the water rushing into the tunnel, and then him
I was like, what is that black
surfing.
dot in the background? Oh, that's water.
Well, the water coming into the tunnel, him like surfing on top of a like dumpster truck or whatever, like
Yes.
that does look dicey. But there's other moments where like the bombing on the city street or the subway train that comes up onto the platform and stuff, like there's moments where like you just see what an undertaking it must have been to make some of these scenes work, and I really thought all that stuff was really good.
Yeah. The thing about practical effects is that people get hurt, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things that they talked about in the trivia, but I didn't put in a trivia section, is how they had like a stunt driver driving, I guess either the taxi or the Mercedes Benz. Like he was like the stunt driver. Like when Bruce Willis is in the front seat, there's a stunt driver in the back seat who's actually controlling the car.
Right.
And because the director says, accidents happen, people have accidents. So he didn't want his actors both driving and acting. He wanted them to concentrate on one thing. And so that's why the stunt driver is in the back doing the actual controlling of the car. So yeah, the practical effects is they're very impressive. They still hold up. I didn't really see anything that truly looked like I'm looking at it and it's like, well, there was like this one small scene where you can actually see, like if you're watching on HD TV, you can actually see that one time the driver in the Mercedes Benz, it's not Bruce Willis, it's actually a stunt driver, but it's like a blink and you'll miss it part.
That's somebody edited.
That's the thing, like
missed that after they watched this 10,000. I was like, I'm tired. Just admit it.
Well, like when you're watching on a movie screen, you're not going to notice because the movie screens ain't going to have that high definition. So that's the thing about it, and that's what they're shooting for. They're shooting for what's going to look good or what's going to sound good in a movie theater. But then when you get that high definition on TV, that's not something that they could have planned for in 1990 or 1996. So whenever the movie came out.
Yeah, it holds up really well. That like it just stuck out to me because sometimes I hear people like decry like, the CGI of Marvel and the CGI of all these other things, and most of the time I'm like, to me it doesn't really stick out that bad. Like most of that, we've gotten to a point now to where most of that stuff looks pretty good to me, but seeing practical effects it gives you that like, oh, this is gonna stand up forever. Like 10 years from now, I'm sure we'll look at the CGI from 10 years ago and be like, oh, that's not as good as what we have today. But we'll never look we'll never look back at this and feel that way, because it's like, no, they really, regardless of how they did it, they made that train hop up on that platform and move people out the way.
Right. They made that train. They actually had explosions. They flipped real cars over, like all of that.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that I talk about later on we all talk about in the trivia section. But also one of the things I noticed, like when I was watching, so I actually watched this off of one of the original DVDs that I bought when this movie was first available on DVD. And one of the things I noticed about the DVD was that there's an unskippable section where it talks about the virtues of DVD and why you should buy the DVD and all the movies that are coming out in DVD. It's like you can watch all of these movies in DVD. And Zachary commented, "Oh, this must be when DVD was new, like like brand new, when you had to convince people to buy DVDs. I guess over
VHS. They weren't giving them VHSs up.
Right. And one of the selling points is that on the DVD it's like widescreen, so that was a big deal. So one of my favorite parts actually is it's good to see Bruce Willis acting and caring about his acting, right? It's like going back to like, oh, this, he really cares, because like in the past, like if you look at his acting credits, it's a ton of direct to video movies, right? So he's just trying to stay employed, just trying to put in some work so he can provide for his family,
keep that good insurance,
right? And you get the feeling when you watch those that he's not putting in like his best work, right? It's like the reason he's in like whatever direct to video movie is to act like Bruce Willis or a version of like the Die Hard character or whatever. So that's what he's usually doing in those movies. So it's good to go back to when he cared about acting, and it's like, oh, this dude is really into it, right?
Well, I always feel like the best Impossible White Man movies happen when an actor needs a hit. Like my favorite ones are always the ones where it's like the actor's career is kind of waning, and it's like if they don't knock this out the park, this could be it. And normally that's when they do that action movie and give you that iconic action, vibe, and then their career takes off again, and they eventually get back to phoning it in. But he needed a hit at this time, and he nailed this character. John McClain is going to be iconic. And then, of course, unfortunately, he had some health stuff happen, mental, like where his brain functions are kind of not working the same. So, like,
right.
there's a bunch of films he made straight to like video the last 5 or so years that I think are just not emblematic of his work. And yes,
right.
some of the stories from on set are like people are literally having to hand him just like line by line in a script, like here's the next sentence that you're gonna say. So I think he even got a Razzie this year and they took it back. The Razzie, they knew like it's almost like
where they come to realize that it wasn't like it wasn't classic Bruce Willis. It was Bruce Willis as he was declining in health. And that was the acting that they saw, and they realized how bad that was. But I'm talking about even the period before.
No. This is two different things. Right. That's like 5 years ago, maybe. But there was stuff that I was watching 10 years ago that he was like, he was just like, man, listen, I'm Bruce Willis. Y'all got me here. Like, let's get this thing over with,
Right. It's like, you got my check.
Direct deposit when it hit.
I watched that movie. I have to look up his IMDb, but I watched a movie where he was like, it was like about cloning or some weird stuff like that, and it was so like 30 minutes in, I was so mad because I was like, oh, he didn't even care, He really got me up in here for another hour and a half, and you didn't even try.
Right. So one of my favorite parts. Also, so like the movie started off with a bang with explosions and whatnot. So they had to go and get Bruce Willis. And when I say Bruce Willis acting, it's like when they had to pull him up and he's like basically in the gutter. And they're talking about, you look like shit, McClain. And it's like he looks like shit. And and he acts like shit because he's all tired and beat up and wanting aspirin and whatnot. And so they had to put him out. And so it's a scene where he has to wear that sign. He has to wear a sign in Harlem that says, I hate niggers. So that's like one of the best opening acts, or one of the best scenes in the movie, or in most movies I've seen. And that's just a classic a moment about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, that once again, that's really where we get to see Samuel L. Jackson's character, and the movie just takes off. It's like if sending John McClain to Harlem with that sign is gasoline, it's actually Samuel L. Jackson's character Zeus that is the fire, is the flame. You know what I mean? Like, when they meet, it's just like boom, explosions, acting wise, explosions in the plot, explosions in the stunts and all that stuff. And so, the brothers they had in that scene were very 90s stereotypes of like,
I'm surprised we didn't see no cross colors.
Brother. Yeah, they immediately put out knives and guns and stuff because that's what white people think black people do all day in the hood.
Right.
But for that scene it worked because as a black person watching it, you low key kind of want that response. You like you're like, if people come to our hood with this nonsense, I wish somebody would threaten them and make them leave. And
right. But at the same time, I think that there'd be a lot more people like Zeus to come out and try to cool off the situation.
Oh yeah,
I don't think all the brothers on the block is gonna come.
It wouldn't work
to cut them.
The real reaction wouldn't work for a movie.
Right.
It wouldn't be that over the top.
It'd be a little bit anticlimactic. Like, brothers don't just have switchblades on them at all times. But
at the same time, at the very least, they would get rid of that sign.
Those 8 dudes look like they was about to go to the park and play like half court. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like all of a sudden they like, hold on, get my gun and my 17 times.
And something.
They also look like they just came from the gym.
Yeah. Did they though? Yes. And something else that was very, I don't want to say unrealistic, but what was hilarious was when they was trying to get all the kids out the building. And then you had like these 5 black kids that decided to go upstairs and separate themselves from the rest of the group to play Tonka 21. I was like, what is these kids doing up here?
Right.
I was like, this doesn't make sense. Well, I'm looking at them like, why is y'all with the assembly? And then hollering out, talking about, hell, where y'all going? It was like, well, they're going somewhere you supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, it's too late to be calling for help now.
Right. I was like, how long you gonna get funny. You gonna get these poor white folks killed because you decided that you didn't want to go with the assembly.
Right. Also scary. Excellent thing that they put in the movie, because you're always going to have some knuckleheads that's going to like buck the system and do what they want to do instead of doing what they're told to do, and then they got to face the consequences. So that was pretty awesome.
Was hilarious.
It was funny
that they put that in the movie.
The bomb diffuser guy is the same guy that was playing around with the explosives in the middle of a damn police station earlier.
Right.
It caused the shit to go boom.
Yeah, like he came in just like on 10 playing too much. Like he had the diffuse bomb with him and slammed it on the desk, and they're like, it's a bomb, shouldn't you be careful? He's like, oh no, check this out, man.
I love that. He's a super nerd. I love that.
Yeah,
dude.
but then at the end, he was like the only one trying to say, like he was trying to save the kids by himself. He was ready to die for the kids.
And he knew he was going to die. He was like, I'm going to try to defuse this bomb.
Yeah.
And he was like, put up or shut up and all that. Like, but he was prepared to die. And I kind of admire that about him. And one of the things that that didn't happen, that should have happened, is like these chemicals need to mix in order to be effective. So you could have, they're in plastic containers. So you could have brought a drill and just drilled a hole in the containers, and that would have emptied at least one of the liquids, so they couldn't mix.
Right.
But
they just needed like something that looked good on TV. That was simple for us at home to be like, correct. Oh no, when the red and the white mix, that's not good, because as a bomb concept, it made no damn sense.
Right. I mean, I can understand them doing it, but it wouldn't have been in a clear container that you could see it. It would be in like a steel container or something like that.
Or they'd already
wouldn't be able to see it.
They'd already be mixed, and then all he got to do is send the electric signal. Why give them,
right.
You're giving them an extra minute of watching the shit mix where they could just.
But at the same time, I can understand them not wanting to transport something that could easily explode.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why they didn't want to walk around with it mixed.
So here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you walk around with it mixed. I'm saying we see how to
put it in the school.
You sit it at the school.
Mix it up.
Mix it right there. Now you ain't got to worry about all this countdown shit. You just like, hey, I'm gonna call, blow it up, you know. But it wouldn't be dramatic, you know. Like we need the drop of the syrups mixing, so we're like, oh no, it's turning pink.
Right.
And, something else I wanted to point out, Clear. Shout out to the cell phone service, because cell phones today don't work this way. This man was down 20 feet deep, stealing $40 million worth of gold, and still had pitch perfect connection to a payphone somewhere in New York City. He was on a cell phone called the payphone and didn't have no problems.
And he have not one scene of having to look up the phone numbers. Like I would have liked one scene of him being like, hold on, wait a minute. Those would be
operator.
Like him, I like one deleted scene in on the DVD that's just him calling the wrong number. That would have been like.
Well, I think with those particular phones, I think they at least had a speed dial feature where you would dial 01 for one person and 02 for another person. So I think he had most of the people he wanted to call on speed dial.
I like to see Simon mess up one time and call like 04 when he was supposed to call 05 and be like,
right.
He'd be like a regular person to answer the phone like, yo, what's up? And he's like, Simon says you need to go to Mulberry Park, and it's like, man, who are you? Who are you?
Quit playing on my phone.
Stop playing. Click.
Also, to Karen's point, even though Simon seemed to have perfect reception wherever he was at underground, it seemed like John McClain almost immediately lost reception.
He had the reverse.
Right?
he had cricket wireless. He was like, by the time I get to the other side of Brooklyn Bridge, reception is gone.
Right.
Every time he
Right.
needed a walkie-talkie or a phone to work, it was a struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was blown
And
up. It
then,
was broke.
what
It
you
was
call it?
shot.
Yeah.
Right. And also this is more of a plot hole than anything else. But there was a point where they didn't want the police to use their radios because they were afraid that might set off the bomb. But the problem is that cell phones are radios.
Right.
I mean, that's all there are. It's like they can connect to way more devices than an actual radio, like a walkie-talkie. But cell phones use the same signals as radios.
And at the end,
that would have.
At the end in the school, even when they found they were still using the walkie-talkies. Like,
right.
Like,
so
my headcanon is Simon was full of shit with that one, and just trying to So just like the last bomb turned out to be pancake syrup or whatever, it was all just anything to slow them down. But that was like in hindsight. When you look at the movie and you're not like in the theater, when I watched it in theater, I didn't even pick up on it. But in hindsight watching, I'm like, oh, they should have known he was lying when they called each other on the walkie-talkie and no one died.
Right. The other thing is that the other hindsight is that we know that he never intended to blow up the school because one of the officers, well, you didn't know it at the time. Like the heroes didn't know it when they had the bad guys dressed as police. And when Zeus brought the bomb over to the fake police, and the fake police was like, they accepted the bomb. Yeah. But then one of the guy was like, he didn't want to put it in his car because he was afraid it was a bomb. He was afraid it was going to blow up. Yeah. And the other guy was like, what? A kid might find it. He said the same thing that Zeus says, right? So, so they didn't want to blow up kids either, right? I feel like they probably wouldn't have signed on to this caper if it meant killing a bunch of kids. Yeah, they're not afraid to blow up people on the street though, indiscriminately, whether or not there might be kids or not. But as far as specifically blowing up a school, I believe, knowingly blowing up a school, I think for most of them would be a bridge too far, except for Caitlin or Kate or whatever her name is.
I think she'd have gave anybody business. And also
Katya. I feel like Katya would kill some kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, she'd have sliced some kids up with no problems. And also the thing with Samuel L. Jackson, when he brought the bomb over to the police, I'm surprised his Negro senses wouldn't tingling that he's a black man, bring a bomb up to a white police officers and nobody said anything crazy to him. They was like, yes, sir, and shook his hand and everything. Like, he didn't, nothing went off. Like, there's something wrong with these police officers.
I mean, that other cop tried to shoot him for picking up the phone.
Right.
Oh my God, that's so pressing for today. And it's like, here's the thing about it. It's not just today though. That sort of thing was going on since forever. And I think this is like one of the earlier movies that kind of showed this, that, you got nervous, jumpy police pointing his weapon at an unarmed person just for jumping the turnstile. Like, obviously he wasn't going to shoot him for holding a receiver on the telephone, but the dude jumped the turnstile, and for that he was going to shoot him? I'm like, for real, yo? Right? He was so nervous, too. It's like, what did you think this dude was going to do? He has nothing in his hand. And he just kept telling the police, it's like, I have to answer this phone. I have to answer this phone. All right, shoot me if you're going to shoot me, right? And that's basically Zeus's nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that Zeus, like McClain kept coming on him about having a chip on his shoulder about race, or about like, you don't like white people or whatever, but not realizing that there's a reason that Zeus doesn't trust or doesn't really want to associate with white people. It's like he's had some bad experiences. He's been burnt a couple of times, so he's gonna be. So he doesn't want to associate necessarily.
John is one of the bad experiences because he lied about that bomb being in Harlem, when he was not in Chinatown. So like, even he was like operating under false premises. Like, there's no reason to trust the cops if you Zeus.
Right. But at the same time, it's like you can see how desperately he needed Zeus's help.
Yeah, I mean, that was that first phone call where he was like, "You need to admit that you need me more than I do you." And John had to do that,
Right. And I like the riddles. I like the first riddle. I like that it was a trick question, and Zeus was going through all the math to try to figure out what the total number of people was, and before he realized it was just one person that was supposed to go to whatever concert or whatever, right? and then he was able to tell McClain the answer. I like that neither one of them had all of the answers. Like sometimes it was Zeus that knew how or had the skill to do some stuff. Sometimes it was McClain that knew how to do some stuff, and they was able to work together. I thought that aspect of their partnership worked really well.
Well, Zeus was, to me, always smarter than John. Like he,
I always got that sense.
Like even like there was stuff where like when they figured out Chester A. Arthur was the school or whatever,
right?
But like where John's like, I don't know, he said it was like a president, like Arthur or something. He's like, Chester A. Arthur, is that what you're talking about? Like I love that Zeus was always like ahead of him on that stuff.
Right. And another one of my favorite parts is the gallon water scene. So that is, I had to watch that over and over. Even when I first watched the movie, I never understood. It's like I'm still like, even though like John McClain explained how to solve the puzzle. He's like, I got it. We just do this, we do that. And then like when I watched it in the movies, I did not understand what he was talking about. And then when I watched it again just now, I still couldn't get it. And then I went on the internet and just basically looked up the puzzle and looked at it over and over again. I was like, oh, I got it now. I figured it out. But I love that part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, did any of you have any problems with the water gallon puzzle?
We would have died if it was me.
Yeah, I agree. I would never have figured that out.
Yeah, that is.
I would have died on the first puzzle.
Right.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't have lasted long either. And also, I like the fact that Simon was fucking with him with that first one, because they started diving, which was hilarious. They dive, go, it's a bomb. And then when Samuel Jackson set up, somebody thought it was a homeless person, like handing him money. I was like, why is this the first time I'm catching? Somebody was like, here, sir, there's something wrong with you. Here, sir.
Right.
You look homeless. I was like, well, damn.
Right.
New York City.
So I like some of the insights that John McClain gets to some scenes. Like, so when he's trying to figure stuff out and his kid comes up to him, like he sees some kids, like he catches them robbing a store and he tries to stop them. And the kids are like, the cops are gone. All the cops are gone. It's like Christmas out here or whatever. And then that's when John figures out that they've been distracted or set up or whatever. Mm-hmm. There are those types of moments in the movies where like when Zeus is able to figure it out, like when Zeus figured out that first puzzle, those types of moments when they do it right in a movie are golden.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like when you write for Batman and you're writing the Riddler, you just have to come up with a puzzle that's just enough that the audience wouldn't get it right away, but also just clever enough that once they see it figured out, they're like, oh, of course, you know?
Right. So this harkens back to like Batman the animated series when the Riddler would pull out those puzzles. And those are just, whenever Batman figures this out, it's like, oh, I feel stupid, right? Because I feel like I should have been able to solve that one.
One of the things that I thought was hilarious when they were on the bridge and they were hanging that thing off the bridge to hook to the boat. And I was like, what are the odds that you're going to swing this down and get a perfect hitch to a moving boat that you got to slide down on, and then you fall like 50 feet. Now, that dude did take an L. The dude that got sliced in half with the cable cord. I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah, that's one of my. That's one of the things I wanted to mention. That's one of the things I wanted to mention for the positive as well. It's a very funny movie and still funny to me, and it's little stuff like that when the dude gets chopped in half. Sam Jackson. Yeah. I think Sam Jackson says, "All right, man, you grab the feet." You know, like, but it's like literally about a half of them. You know what I mean? Oh, so good.
Oh, what was?
Yeah, that dude suffered from a Mortal Kombat fatality.
That type of death. Yes, he did. And something else that made me laugh was, now you seen John McClain get covered in blood, and it's a very violent movie, but there was some violence that we didn't see. Like he was in the elevator we didn't really see him like blowing people's heads off. Like when the dude got chopped in half, we seen him get chopped in half, but they didn't like zoom out so you could see them like carrying his body away. I was like, oh, so there's certain things that y'all chose to kind of edit out of it, but we still got the same effect without quote unquote seeing it.
That elevator scene was also sketchy as fuck because he killed the dude because he recognized the badge number and the guy didn't say anything about the badge when he brought up the lottery. And it's like, yeah, or maybe he just don't play the lottery, you know, but he was like, nope, clearly y'all about to kill me. And he was right. It's like, what if
He's
he
like,
had
I
been
know the
wrong?
response I'm supposed to get.
It strongly reminded me of the Captain America scene.
Yeah.
And but I get it, right? So he already recognized the badge number. So he recognized that this guy was not
him.
that cop, right? Because he knows that.
But it was just so funny.
I think that he asked about the lottery number because he wanted to confirm that nobody in the elevator was a cop.
That's what I'm saying.
Like if one person had said, "Oh yeah, I played the lottery," then maybe he would have just like, "Okay, I guess
like it was so
going on."
It was so arbitrary.
He was like, "But nobody in the whole elevator played the lottery." It's like, "Oh no, this is some bullshit
setup.
right here."
It was like it was so arbitrary. There's like one of those dudes could have been a real cop that got tricked by the other two. But we'll never know. We'll never know.
But he was getting it. But he was gonna get it though.
He was gonna get these two.
Yeah, because the way they infiltrated, some people were in on it and some weren't, which is what made them so dangerous. But obviously, for for hero's sake, we can't be feeling like my man carrying out these extrajudicial punishments is wrong, right? We gotta
We gotta justify his actions.
In that scene. Yeah, in that elevator, everybody was evil, but it's just like I just laughed to myself afterwards, like, yo, there's a scenario where like one dude was just not in on it, and he took
right.
and
they actually kind of did that in Die Hard 2.
Yeah,
in Die Hard 2, a member of John Amos's team was not in on the plan, and John Amos had to dispose of him. So I guess there is a scenario where that's possible, where one dude is not in on it. But yeah, he would have got it though. The only thing is that there's a point where like McClain and one of the bad guys are pointing guns at each other.
Yeah,
and either one of them could pull a trigger. And and I'm thinking, why don't you just pull the trigger, right? Especially the bad guys. Like, why are you hesitating? Why don't you just shoot John McClain? You got your gun pointed at his face, but. You know, it's a movie Hollywood. And we have to deal with it.
Hollywood.
The other piece of extrajudicial punishment is when McClain just went and shot up the dudes that were in the dump truck.
Yes!
Just put it out. I was like, oh man, that's super cop. That's cop right there. That's full on modern day policing right there.
That's gangster.
Yeah, I wrote down.
No questions asked.
Yeah, I wrote that down too because. Yeah, I wrote that down too because like his tour guide truck driver dude that was like adorable. He was so casual about this man murdering these people. Like he was
right.
He was like, "Oh man, are they dead?" He's like, "Yeah, call such and such. Call my precinct captain. Tell him John McClain sent you or whatever." He's like, "All right, man, no problem." I'm like, "Yeah, I probably would have been backing out of there like Homer."
Right. So the thing about it, like, I feel like their discussion of racism in the movie was a little bit antiquated, but as far as that scene where he shot those guys inside the dump truck, I think that did not age well. Like, I think if they were to try to do that scene again for modern times, it would have played out completely differently. Like they had to have been able to do it in such a way that he knew where they're about to shoot him and he has to shoot back. They would do it that way. They wouldn't do it where he just sneaks up on him and just shoots him, right? That's not going to work today.
Like, yeah, it's called Die Hard, so apparently they died hard.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Right.
So were there any more scenes that you loved, that you were impressed by, that you wanted to talk about?
Man, I mean, I love so much of this movie. Mm-hmm. Honestly, we could probably do a scene by scene breakdown because even the things that are bad or don't work, I like because it reminds me of that era. And this being my favorite genre of movie, I like the problematic elements of Impossible White Man. I don't run away from them. Like I'm not trying to retrofit this into like my politics of 2023. I'm just like, yeah, he was going in Harlem and beating up black people sometimes. Like if that's what the job required, you know. But yeah, I liked it. And then the other thing. Everything in this movie about women is mostly terrible, right? Because every woman is presented as either like a nag or like it's a burden to try to like do right by her. Like even when they're just implying like you could do better by your ex-wife, it's all like, oh my God, she's so
I know this bitch.
Like yeah, the original detective woman who has to watch him get naked and change his clothes. And he's like, you're the first person to see this since my ex-wife. And she was like, oh, it's my honor. He was like, it was hers too. I'm like, why is every like woman in this movie just treated this way?
Right. At least she was like super ironic about it when she said it's my.
Oh, yeah. Like, it wasn't like James Bond creepy. It was just
right.
It was like every instance they had to point out like this is a woman. Right.
And something else I did, like I actually really loved how whenever Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson got separated, how they conveniently find each other randomly. Like one goes in one exit, one goes in the other exit, then they find each other down in the bottom. How, you know, Samuel L. Jackson's driving a car and he looks over to the left and Bruce Willis flying in the air with the water. So it was just hilarious just to have these. He was like, you have a funny way of doing a calling card or let me know. You know, I was like, this is hilarious.
Right. Yeah, that and how Simon always seemed to call at just the right time, with just the right number at just the right time.
The payphones, you know,
that was super convenient too.
Right, for people that was around in the payphone era, it was payphones everywhere. So how did you know what that payphone number was gonna be?
Oh, he probably did some research.
Okay,
yeah, like he's a terrorist. They had movies like this all of the time back in the. And they still kind of have them. We don't really see it anymore because there are no more payphones. But as long as there were payphones, there have been like payphone bad guys who would like force their hero to go find a payphone and beat up the person who's already on the payphone and answer the phone so they could stop the bomb. It was kind of like a trope. Yeah, I think the last movie I saw that used this was a movie called Phone Booth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt bad for
that's the one where.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just saying it starred Colin Farrell and I think Forrest Whitaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just felt bad for the people on the phone. You know,
it
could have been a big day for them too. I don't know. He's like, I'm gonna find out. I got that job finally.
You made me
hey, I'm calling for the results for my HIV test.
Oh.
Yeah, and then John, like Zeus comes up to him and yells, "Get off the damn phone!" It's like, what?
Yeah, I guess we should to be fair to the extraordinarily scared transit policeman that Zeus was like bullying the dude off the phone to get to the phone.
Well,
when the police showed up,
he jumps the fare. He's got a cut on his arm. His clothes are clearly like disheveled, like he's been fighting somebody or something. And then he starts yelling at a dude on the phone. Who's on the phone?
Yeah, he starts harassing a white dude.
Like I ain't saying he got shot, but I understood the cop being like, "Hey, man, what's going on?
You had a rough day. I have too. Something wrong here."
Like I put it this way: I'm not 1,000% sure that if a white man did that, the cop wouldn't have reacted the same way. I'm just saying. He was acting a little bit.
I don't know. I'm still kind of leery about the gun being out.
It's just like
maybe the gun would be out, but not like pointing at people.
I'm like I said, I just can't be 100% sure. Like there's a lot of cases where I'm 100% sure. Where I'm like, damn, brother can't even drive a car. Like this is one of them borderline cases where I'm like, you was acting up a little bit.
Go either way.
I'm not saying they should have put
right.
You might be on. This is New York City. You might be on drugs. I don't know what might be happening here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. So, I I think we got most of our love for this movie out of our system.
Oh yeah,
and it's great. It's great having this conversation with you guys to talk about our favorite parts of Die Hard with a Vengeance. So what we're going to do, we're going to transition now to the trivia section. So right after this musical cue, we're going to get into the trivia. And we're back. We got the trivia from IMDb, where I get almost all of my trivia from. And if you're doing a podcast and you want to talk about trivia, IMDb is a sweet and convenient place to get a bunch of stuff. Now, you're going to have to check these facts on IMDb because some of them be wrong and be confusing, or they be worded messed up. And if you try to read them word for word live on your podcast, you might start tripping up. It's like, wait a minute, that don't sound right. So yeah, use IMDb.
You have been warned.
Kind of check it when you use it. Yeah. Kind of check it. I tripped up. I think I tripped up last episode. I was trying to read something off of IMDb. It's like, man, they worded this poorly, and I sound like a fool. But we're gonna carry on. So I started off with Bruce Willis suggested Samuel L. Jackson for the movie. Jackson was thrilled. He says he's seen the first Die Hard maybe 30 times.
wow.
So I think that's awesome. I think that he's a fan of the movie, and he gets to be in a movie that he's a fan of. So that's all. I think Samuel L. Jackson's just been lucky to be in movies that, like, he loves Star Wars. He got a chance to be in Star Wars, or a lot of these movies that he's had an opportunity to be in. It's just been awesome for him. So
Yeah,
that's great for Sam.
I probably also seen it 30 times, so I feel you, Sam.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
You're not alone.
Oh shit, my bad. I forgot about the highlight parts. My bad. Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne was originally the choice to play Zeus Carver, but he turned down the part when he reconsidered the decision. Jackson was already cast. I would also I think this movie could also work with Lawrence Fishburne. Like, that would have
I agree.
really good movie. So, you know, sucks it wasn't him for him, but I also just love Sam Jackson Zeus, so you know, we play on.
Yeah.
I was listening to Lawrence Fishburne on Jamel Hill's show, and she was asking him about, you know, parts that, you know, he wish he would have had and things like that. And he says that because, you know, how people get jealous and things like that. He said, no, I'm not jealous of anything. He said the parts that were for me are for me, and if I didn't get him, he was like, the person that they picked was probably the best person for the role. I was like, that's a good way to look at it. He was like, it keeps the stress level down. I was like, I agree. Because ain't nothing you can do about it on the backside. Jackson said that Zeus is the closest character to my personality of any I've ever played, and I agree. Yes, I believe that.
I can see that.
Yeah. I think one of the things would be his leeriness of white people in general, like not being able to fully trust them, like knowing that you have to work for certain people, but also knowing that certain people may have like hurt your family or your friends. So you kind of, you know, being extremely cautious when dealing with certain people. It's interesting that he would say this. Have you heard what his favorite role is? He said his favorite role, I think as of a few years ago, like a couple of years ago, his favorite role that he ever played was in The Long Kiss Goodbye.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
I think that's what it's called, or The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Long Kiss Goodnight. Yeah, that's another impossible.
That's one of my
white
favorite
man
movies.
I love that movie.
Or in that case, an Impossible White Woman movie.
Oh no! Oh, hold on, I'm the expert here. Okay, they're all Impossible White Man movies.
Oh, okay.
Anyone can play an Impossible White man.
Anybody can play an Impossible White man. Woman, it don't matter. Gender don't matter. There's certain tropes, and it's all
them damn movies is for. Them is white man movies, okay?
Yeah, they wrote it for a white man.
They don't allow nobody else to do all that.
Right.
But nah, I love that. God, that's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it holds up.
That was pretty awesome too.
Yeah,
I did a show about it a few months ago. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I'd seen this movie. Like, I'm just now watching this again, right? So moving right along. As in Die Hard, The German spoken in this movie is mostly grammatically incorrect. A few lines are so wrong that they have to be considered gibberish. Most notably, the exchange at the fake cops who were given the briefcase bomb by Zeus. In the German release, however, all of the lines that were German in the original movie were grammatically correct, fitting the context, and some of the terrorists even have East German accents. And I feel like it would have been messed up if you released this movie in Germany and it was still gibberish. That would have been a dick move on their part. And it's already a dick move not having correct German.
Right.
Like, you didn't care enough about this movie to at least have some, like, if you couldn't get German speaking actors and just have the actors read German lines, they weren't saying a whole lot, right?
America, we don't care. That's what that boiled down to.
Right?
That's sad, but that's the truth.
I feel like they could have gotten some German. Yeah, I feel like they could have gotten some German speaking actors. I think there are a lot of Germans who speak English, and they could have got some actual German speaking actors. They didn't have to get they didn't have to cast like the main bad guy. Jeremy Irons does an excellent job. I didn't talk about him as one of my favorite parts, but his accent is undefeated. Like the way he moves between his English accent, well, he has an American accent and a German accent in this movie, and the way he moves between them is awesome. Like even his American accent is even better than Alan Rickman's American accent. So he really moved real smoothly. And then to add the stutter along with it, it was just brilliant. But I feel that I wish they would have cared.
Yeah. I don't speak German, so it didn't bother me. I wouldn't have.
Right.
If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known. I just heard
wouldn't have known.
I heard them talking that vaguely German. I heard them talking that vague German gibberish and was like, "Oh no, those are the bad cops," you know.
Yeah. and they understand that's how most Americans are going to see it now. On today's standard, they would have done what you said, but back then they didn't care.
I don't even sure they do it today, because I see it all the time when I watch like closed caption on. It'll say "speak in German." You know?
Oh, they do that in closed caption.
I think with those choices, like the director is kind of making a decision that he doesn't want the English speaking audience to know what the Germans are saying. I mean, like his idea is like, if you get it, you get it, but if you don't, I'm just going to put "speak in German" in closed caption because I don't want you to know what they're saying.
I mean, you'd like to believe that, but you don't know.
Or either the person translating,
you're gonna have to go check the IMDb
I'm not
trivia.
doing that.
Right.
We're gonna have to go check the IMDb trivia to see if they really did it, or if they just was like, just speak some Korean sounding stuff and let's go. You know?
Yeah, they do that all the time. And then the other thing is that they'll spend I guess it depends on the creators or the director, but in some movies they'll spend a significant amount on creating an unreal or like a fake language, right? They'll invent a language. And they'll put a lot of care into the grammar of this fake language that they made up, but they couldn't do the same thing for German. Right. So that's why I find it.
It's a real language.
Oh no, it definitely I would have missed it if it wasn't for this trivia. The sandwich board that Willis wore while filming in Harlem was originally blank rather than text to ensure no one was offended by the racist message. The "I hate niggers" was added with CGI in post-production. Some television broadcasts use an alternate version where the sign read "I hate everybody," which is sometimes erroneously said to be the original version of the sign used for the filming. But this too was added with CGI in post-production.
You know what? Pretty good CGI.
Yeah, definitely worked. Like, that's the one practical effect they wasn't gonna do.
I'm trying to tell you. Yes, everybody was probably looking at him like, "Why is your sign blank?"
In the middle of actual Harlem.
Yes,
right.
That would not have.
That was the thing when they filmed it. I said that. Like, I haven't like gone out to everywhere in New York. I've gone to parts of Harlem, but when I was watching, I said that was definitely taking place in Harlem. Like, they didn't go to Toronto to film this. And those are actual black people. So even if they actors, they're not trying this out. Cause I was literally thinking this while I was watching. It was like, they must have made it blank and just did something later or something. And so this trivia has answered my questions. Thank you.
Good.
Absolutely.
Even though the film's domestic box office was only $100 million, its massive international box office, about $266 million, made it the highest grossing film of 1995 worldwide. It is one of a few movies that could manage to become the highest grossing film of the year when its domestic box office was not even in the top 5. It finished 10th. Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So they love this internationally.
I wonder
So
what it
this,
was.
I'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wonder what it was that made it resonate international. Because as I watched this movie, it felt so specific to America, and to New York, America.
I think because people overseas, they love New York, they love action movies, and they specifically love American action movies. And so you got an American action movie that takes place in New York, and Die Hard. This is the third Die Hard movie.
Right.
They probably love the Die Hard series.
Right.
So yeah, I can see this being it's the same way how we love kung fu movies from out of Hong Kong and China. There are people who love American movies and American action movies in particular. And then American action movie has like a different flavor because there's some part they don't like. You don't normally see wire work in the fighting scenes of American movies, so it just looks different. It has I feel like it has a more realistic feel to it than when you're watching like a Hong Kong movie and people are literally flying through the air and fighting. So I guess it's like there are people where that type of action really resonates with them.
Makes sense.
Right. So the script, originally titled Simon Says, where Zeus was scripted as a woman and was considered by Joel Silver as the third sequel to Lethal Weapon from 1987. 20th Century Fox, however, did not agree to sell the script to Joel Silver. So that would have been an interesting entry into the Lethal Weapon franchise. It's funny, when I was writing this, I was struggling. It's like, is that how you spell says? I guess because it, like, when you look at the word, it looks like says, but we always pronounce it says. So
yeah, I thought
English is funny.
You could
that
tell
way.
from the Simon Says thing at the beginning that this could have been a different movie, completely disconnected from Die Hard. So like reading that trivia and hearing that from you before we started recording, I was like, oh, because I love this movie, but it has always felt like Die Hard 2 was like a direct sequel, and this movie was like a better movie, but not as tied to the Die Hard universe as the second one was. Die Hard,
Well, the next thing you're about to read ties into this fabulously.
Die Hard was based on Nothing Lasts Forever, a novel by Roderick Thorpe. Die Hard 2 was based on 58 Minutes, a novel by Walter Wager, or Wagger possibly. Live Free or Die Hard was based on A Farewell to Arms, an article by John Carlin for Wired magazine. What? How? And A Good Day to Die Hard was the only movie in the franchise to have an original screenplay.
Yeah, I think what's amazing about this is that, so you mentioned that it felt like Die Hard 2 felt like a direct sequel, but it was also from a totally different script than anything that the original author wrote, right? So it was from a different source anyway. They just took a script and they just adapted it to this movie. It makes me feel like Die Hard could be adapted from any script. Like, you could take like a Dirty Harry movie and adapt it to a Die Hard script. That's how malleable the Die Hard
One
series
of the movies
is.
being adapted from an article is wild to me. It's like just an article, like not a book, not the whole magazine, just like we
right.
We read this article.
The
article was so good, we said we could make a movie. That's crazy.
This isn't the only one, or the first one that I did. Another movie that was adapted from a magazine article is Top Gun.
Wow.
So and the author of that magazine, like, he's actually had to go in legal battles over getting his money off of them using his work to make the movie. So that I found, and even when you watch at least the first the first Top Gun movie, you'll see them give credit to the author of that magazine article. So yeah, like, wherever you can get your sources, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you just have to pay them. In the DVD commentary, Jonathan Hensley says the first hour of the film in his original Simon Says script was word for word. He only changed the characters from the script so that it would actually feel like part of the Die Hard franchise. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that I think that speaks to his strength as a screenwriter and the overall strength of the script, where they didn't really have to make any changes. Like, let's just change this character's name to John McClain, and we can move on from there.
Who would do the extra work?
Like, they didn't even. I guess. Yeah, yeah, awesome. So this is a pretty thick one. I'm gonna try to get through this without any undue trouble. On April 19th, 1995, exactly 1 month before the movie was scheduled to be released, the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City was bombed by terrorists. Several sources later reported that last-minute editing was done to remove a few scenes depicting explosions out of pity with the victims. This claim turned out to be false. There may have been confusion with the television show All My Children and Melrose Place, which indeed has such scenes edited out at the last minute. The director, John McTiernan, did at one point consider either editing out the opening bombing of the department store or moving the release date back. He felt that the American public might still be sensitive to bombing due to recent events. However, Fox Studios decided to go with the original version and release date, stating that the film was a work of fiction and was already completed long before the real life events occurred. So that's I forgot all about the Oklahoma City bombing. I totally forgot about that. I forgot the timetable that it happened near the release. I remember like the event of the bombing in the news and everything, and I remember watching the movie, but I don't remember having those two connected.
Same. I feel like that happens a lot with TV shows and stuff where they're like, we pushed this episode back because there was some real terrorism in the world. It's like, yeah, but I know that, I guess, normal, I don't even want to say normal, but like rational people, I guess, reasonable people understand that like 24 wasn't filmed like after the bombing that happened last week. Like they planned to do this a long time ago. It's,
right. They filmed
moving it back a week isn't going to change anything.
Yeah. I mean, you want to believe that. But then there was an incident where, you remember that show, I think it was from the show, I can't remember, Empire. I believe it was from that show. And so one of the characters on that show was kind of a dick. And the actor that played that character, he got into an elevator, and a random dude got into an elevator and then started berating the actor for stuff that he did as a character on that show. And the dude was like, look, I'm just a character. I'm just an actor. It's not real.
Oh, no.
It is real. It is real, man.
That's actually what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I mean. A rational person.
Right.
Like, you're not going to ever be able to avoid that there's going to be some motherfuckers out there that's just not with it. But in general, I think most of us looking at TV understand how the sausage is made, and especially with a movie can be in production for years sometimes. I think most of us are not sitting around like, they did this because, so and so happened. Like,
right. I think less so, like in the earlier days, like even 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But as we have progressed and all of us are connected to social media, and we see everything, as I can't imagine there are people out now that don't know how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And if there are still people that ignorant, then it's troubling.
Yeah.
But
I think like, so the difference to me is like back in the day when this stuff happened, I think the odds of there being a lot of people upset is very low. I think what's fun, and we knew less then than we know now. Well, I think what's kind of sad similarly is that we know more than ever now about how things are made, but I feel like there's a I don't want to say clout, but like there's an attention economy in being the person to be offended by something. So you probably would get more people complaining today than you did back then, but the real world impact of like I feel what you're saying. That's all I'm saying. It's complicated. I get you.
Right. The only other movie I remember, I'm pretty sure there are plenty of things that happened, but the only other movie I remember is like the movie and the video game. So there was the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. So in that movie, in the original trailer, they had the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And I think they were supposed to have a Twin Tower scene somewhere in the movie, but they had taken all of that out because the movie was set to release after the destruction of the Twin Towers.
I think the original...
And it affected the video game because the video game supposed to feature the Twin Towers. And they modified the buildings in the game so that they didn't closely resemble the Twin Towers.
Yeah, I think in the original poster for that Spider-Man, I want to say it was supposed to be him on a web between the Twin Towers or something. Like, I want to say that was...
It was...
So, like, some type of...
It was a hell...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. It was a helicopter between the Twin Towers in the poster and in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the poster, you can see the reflection of New York City in his eyeglass or his eyepiece as Spider-Man. And they edited the Twin Towers out.
Okay. During the press conference to promote the film's release, Bruce Willis preemptively told reporters that he would not discuss the April 1995 Oklahoma City bombing in any way because he did not want to trivialize the real-world tragedy by comparing it in any way to a fictional movie. So kind of just a footnote on the original thing.
Right.
That's smart. The producers planned to blow up the Hutchinson River Parkway toll booth structure for a scene in the movie. The tolls were to be eliminated anyway, and then Governor Mario Cuomo volunteered to push the switch, but opposition from local residents in close proximity and from other officials nixed the idea. Also, they were gonna blow the bridge. That's wild.
Yeah, well, it was scheduled for destruction anyway. But and the city was going to let them do it, but then the residents complained about it. It was like, no, we live near the toll booths. My house is right there across the street. We're not going to let you blow up these toll booths. My house right there.
And it ended up getting blown up anyway.
And plus, it's loud. I have a bunch of dogs. My dogs don't like loud noises. I would refer you not to blow up these toll booths
within 30 feet of my front yard.
Right. So that was the issue right there. So the filmmakers did pull the pickup truck off the bridge with the boat. So that whole scene where Karen had mentioned earlier, they thrown the line from the truck to the boat, and the boat really did pull the truck off of the bridge. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's that live action.
Yeah, and I mean, that was the one place where you could see the CGI, which is why I was like, it's good they use so many practical effects because CGI doesn't hold up. And not CGI on the truck. CGI on when they fell from the rope.
Yes.
Like 40 feet. I was like, first of all, as a man of a certain age, I know they didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. It kind of reminds me, when I saw that scene, I had just seen or recently seen, I think it's episode 4 of The Last of Us. Mm-hmm. And they had to walk up all those stairs. And then Ellie was like, come on, get up, man, get up. Yeah. And Joe was like, I'm 56 years old, you little shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is good for these knees.
You're not falling 40 feet.
Yeah.
Right. You're not falling 40 feet onto a boat and you're like in your 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
I don't see that happen. It's like now that I'm 51, I can categorically say it's good special effects.
Come on, great special effects.
That entire third act is just like, none of this could have happened. You know what I mean? Like it's like they jump off an exploding boat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
they tried to recreate the first Die Hard with the explosion behind them, but if they were that close to a bomb that big and they jumped off the boat, it would have killed them. The shockwave would have turned their insides into jelly. Yeah, it's like no. But it was fun to watch. It was,
of course.
And then the other part is like when they at the final end when McClain and Zeus go into the helicopter and they find the bad guys I don't know if it was in Canada or at the border between New York and Canada, but they find the bad guys, and I'm like, why is Zeus there? Zeus is done.
Mm-hmm.
Zeus has done his work for King and Country. There's no reason for him to be in a helicopter. with
Samuel
John
Jackson.
McClain.
Samuel Jackson does the entire third act of this movie with a bullet in his foot.
Mhm.
Yeah. In his foot or in his leg.
Yeah,
and
I heard
he's like
myself
pushing
sleeping.
40.
I heard myself sleeping the other day. Like, there's no way this, like, the entire third act is just like, I mean, it's what I love about the genre, but the entire third act, I was just, from the moment they fall 40 feet and they don't even get up limping. They're just like, oh man, you grab the legs. I'm just like, nah, dog.
They got up. They got up like they slept wrong the night before. Like they slept wrong on their bed.
Them
I
kids,
can stretch this
them
out.
kids school would have blew. Them kids school would have blew up.
Kids would have been dead.
The film depicts Zeus's nephews, the brothers who were brothers in real life, Aldous Hodge and Edwin Hodge. They made their acting debuts in this movie. Aldous could later be seen in A Good Day to Die Hard, playing a character named Foxy.
I don't remember A Good Day to Die Hard. To kind of block that out.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
That's the one where his so-called kids were in the movie.
Yeah,
right?
I think that one was terrible, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the only one with the original script, and it was pretty bad. It was like, come on, because like, and especially since Live Free or Die Hard, I really like that movie.
That was
my favorite thing
good.
about my favorite thing. I remember. I don't even remember. For some reason, I missed it at the movie theater, and I watched it. Like I bought it as a gift for my fiance, and we watched it on Christmas. We watched that movie on DVD. And my favorite thing about that movie was when John McClain points the gun at his chest, because his chest had already been opened up with another bullet, and the bad guy is behind him, and he shoots the bad guy through his own body. And says "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!"
So
I'm like, oh, that's so brilliant.
I loved it, dog. But yeah, that like the A Good Day to Die Hard is the joint where they tried to make. This is when they were still trying to make Jai Courtney somebody.
I'm
they was trying to.
glad they stopped that.
Right, they was trying to transfer the mantle to Jai Courtney, and I mean, it could have worked, but it was just a bad story.
He's not a great actor,
right?
So
he doesn't have the same charisma.
I think
he doesn't. He was.
It just wasn't gonna
he
work.
Got that face and just boring. Like he didn't pull anything out to kind of make me root for him.
He's just a white dude, They need.
And that's not sufficient. You got
stronger, bro.
You got to have a grit. You got to be like, I got to get my next hit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna just put that controversial. This is gonna be a controversial opinion, but I kind of liked him in Suicide Squad. Now I'm just put that.
Yeah, he was all right as Captain Boomerang. Yeah, but keep in mind, that's about where he need to be. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If you were to say top billing on Suicide Squad, how long? Jai Courtney.
Nah,
right. You're not giving it to Jai Courtney.
Yeah.
I agree.
It wasn't Jai Courtney's Suicide Squad. None of us came in the theater for that.
Right. Yeah, you couldn't have, like, the main character really is I guess Deadshot.
Right.
You couldn't have Jai Courtney as Deadshot. That would not have.
It wouldn't have hit the same. It's not his.
No.
Listen, I'm not blaming him. I would have took the money too. But
me too.
It's like as soon as you realize what that movie is and that they're clearly trying to set him up to be the next John McClain, you're like, oh no, this ain't gonna work, baby.
Right.
Right. Oh no, baby, it's not gonna work. McClain uses a mixture of binary liquids to blow the handcuffs off of Zeus on the container ship. I remember that. I was looking like, word, and you didn't set him on fire? But I'm sorry, not to get off topic. The amount he uses would have been enough to blow at least one of Zeus' hands off. Right, that's what I said. In comparison to the amount used as in the demonstration earlier in the film. That's what I said, because I was just like, wow, you didn't blow him, lose a limb, set him on fire, nothing.
Right. Yep.
There were two reasons that I included this. The first one was I didn't know how, when I watched the movie, how Zeus got out the handcuffs. And then when I read this trivia, I realized, when they did the demonstration at the police station, they used just a tiny drop. and it had this huge explosion. So that's a continuity error. They should have fixed that. So the last one is like I said, I meant to take this out, but I'm gonna read it anyway since it's here. McTiernan says a bus came 6 inches from crashing into Samuel Jackson. About half of that traffic was real, and the other half was added in post-production. So I don't remember which scene he's specifically talking about, but they were doing practical effects. So, it comes close. Accidents almost happen, and accidents do happen all the time. So I think that's the lesson of that story.
Damn, I'm shocked that Sam was in anything that was allowing the traffic to get that close. They must have really wanted to be good.
Right.
Like that kind of trivia. So that trivia should have been like Sam Jackson's stand-in almost
died.
A lot of times when actors are involved in like dangerous stunts, it's because they want to get the actor's face.
Right.
Like it's not going to work if we don't get this face. So, and they don't have that technology where they can just put your face on somebody else. So they try to get the actor's face. So it's like, okay, it's going to be a little bit dangerous, but I got you. All right. I got you. You're not going to get her. I promise. Right.
The only person they have to calm down is our boy, Tom Cruise. He be like, I do my own stunts. I be like, Tom, you cannot fly a 747. I understand that you got your license just so you can do this stunt, but we need somebody behind you, sir. No, you cannot do this solo.
Right. Tom Cruise and Jackie Chan, both of them, just doing a little bit too much.
Yes, sir. And
it's amazing that Jackie Chan can still walk for real.
I love him for it. Two of my favorite guys.
Two of my favorite, yes. And Jackie Chan in The Foreigner is an excellent movie. That's old Jackie.
Like,
right.
It couldn't be me.
All right, so that's it for the trivia. And up next, we're going to see what the critics thought. All right, we're back. We're going to see what the critics thought of Die Hard with a Vengeance. The critics gave it a 58%. The audience score was 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. And IMDb reviews, it's got a 7.6 out of 10. So you see what I mentioned earlier, that it had mixed reviews. The critics were not so hot on it in general, but the audience absolutely loved this movie. The audience was like, give me more of this. This is what I want. I like it. I love it. I want more of it. Make it hurt, Drill Sergeant. Make it hurt. So why don't you let us know what the critics were thinking about this movie?
Oh, wait. I closed it. I thought that was the end for us talking. Is it yellow? Is it for me?
Yep, it's for you.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Hold on. I messed up. Oh, God. Take all this out later in the post-edit. That was all a mistake. How do I restore the previous
We are
session?
professionals.
Oh, my God.
We're doing it live. We're doing it live, people. This is what happened with your live podcast.
All right, I'm scrolling down to the bottom. And
this is what happens.
I see it. Okay, yeah. So
right,
listen, like we all know, okay.
I mean,
off the top of my head, I feel like Barbara Creed from The Age, Australia. If I'm remembering this correctly from just the top of my brain. I believe she said, if you're an action fan, you will love Die Hard with a Vengeance. All you need is a strong stomach and a penchant for masochism. And if you can't endure the pain threshold, you won't mind the glaring plot inconsistencies, woeful stereotyping, and banal story. Which, I remember when she said that. And then, of course, Matt Goldberg from Collider said, it's bigger, bolder, darker, but still retains the same sense of desperation, humor, and intensity of the first movie, which we all know. He said that. We remember.
and Mike,
you were almost in your comments as we talked about the movie, Rod. You was kind of mentioning some of the stuff that Barbara Creed had mentioned. Like, if you could stand the masochism, you all right with it? And I'm like, yeah, I could stand it, right?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, I reckon. I think the difference between now and back in the day, I mean, I still feel this way because I was born back in the day, right? But I recognize something being problematic and can still enjoy it.
Yes.
Like, I'm not in a competition to be like, that was like, I'm not gonna fight you about it. If you were like, it felt a little racist to me, I'll be like, yeah, felt a little racist to me too. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we can all keep on tracking.
No, I don't
keep
think.
on trucking.
Yeah, like it ultimately is like surface level, buddy cop, black white. That odd couple thing. Like one of my favorite stupid like race things was when he at the very end when they're tied up together, he's like, "You think you could pick this lock?" And Sam Jackson, whose life is literally on the line, and as we find out, can pick the lock, is like, "Why? Because I'm black." I'm like, dude, you about to die, and you still trying to prove a point?
You trying to fight over racism? This is not the
I ain't
time
got
to try
time
to
for
free
this.
the people.
The answer is yes. Yes, I can.
Right. Also, I do like that every time McClain brought up something, Zeus was like, he's always like, because I'm black, because he wants
He was looking like, you want to call me a nigga? He was like, no, I actually wanted to call you an asshole.
Right. Right. It's basically, I think what McClain doesn't recognize is that Zeus has his guards up, right? That's how he approaches life. That's how he deals with certain people. He got his guards up, and he's ready to defend himself at all times. So yeah.
It's just funny. All of it works for me, man. Even when the white guy gets in the taxi because he thinks Zeus is a taxi driver.
Yeah.
They don't show you the conversation. I'm sure they cut from it. I'm sure they had a version where that dude was like screaming in the back of the cab. But instead they show him getting out of the cab and they pan to the dude and he's got his briefcase up here like shaking. And you're like, this is what you get.
Yes, because he told you that,
So-
hey, I'm not there. He was like, you know what? I'll take you there. And I don't think he made it to his destination, y'all.
What? You don't like white people? I said, oh, he about to get fucked up.
And I was thinking, the way they've been driving these cars today, you ain't gonna like how they get there. They're gonna running lights and stuff.
Right. Driving through parks.
Yes.
I swear to God, those cars are undefeated driving
Come
through
on.
parks.
Hitting pedestrian ditches. I was like, what is this car made out of? Titanium? Keep a ticking and keep on linking. Because, honey, it was like, no, nothing you could do could destroy this car.
Right. Absolutely.
Michael Wilmington, Chicago Tribune. The third installment is so loud and fast and full of chases that watching it is like being on an abandoned roller coaster. It's like being abandoned on a set of roller coaster tracks. You definitely won't be bored, but you're not necessarily pleased. Oh, poor thing. I don't think he liked it, y'all.
Right.
No, I like roller coaster rides. Maybe that's just me. Hey, Marianne. I'm not even gonna attempt to tell the last name up, Marianne.
It's Johansson, like Scarlett Johansson.
Okay, because I was like,
Yeah,
I don't want to pronounce it and then be like, that's nowhere near it. Marianne Johansson.
Philosopher, but it's spelled without the PH.
I'm looking like, I don't think that's spelled right. Okay. Well, that site is probably not around no more, so we don't have to worry about it. It makes for dramatic action that feels unstaged, and the fact that it's obviously must have been staged makes it even a greater accomplishment. This review.
She loved
That's
it.
hilarious.
Like,
Yeah, she loved it definitely. I guess she's trying to say that the action looks organic and natural, and it doesn't look like they set up a bunch of stuff. Like they didn't set up these cars here for the explosion to go off, and they didn't set up this truck to be pulled off of the bridge by the boat. It looked natural and like something that could have happened or realistic to her. So I'm like, yeah, like especially when you first watch the movie, I think that's the exact impression that I get. Like I like action movies that are fantastic, but they don't look fantastic. Like a movie, you get into trouble when it does something that's too out of bounds, like a car going into space, or like in Transporter 3 when the car is able to go upside down in midair and land on its tires. Yes! When you get too far, it's like, oh, come on now. But if you do just enough, that it's awesome. So I think that's what she's talking about. So finally, Die Hard with a Vengeance, as of this recording, is available anywhere you can rent or buy movies. That's it for today. Next week, we have a chat about another great movie from yesteryear, Iron Eagle. Follow us on Twitter or TikTok at Backlick Cinema, or on Facebook or Instagram at Backlick Cinema Podcast. And if you're on Mastodon, at Backlick Cinema at mstdn.party. Don't forget that you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlickcinema.com. So, do you guys have any additional plugs you want to put in?
Just watch Game Theories. Just watch Game Theory with Bomani Jones on HBO on Fridays at 11 p.m. or catch it on HBO Max if you have that app. Or catch it on TNT if you like basketball. TNT on Thursdays before Shaq, Ernie, and Charles and Kenny get up there. That we on there. So check us out.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And I just want to say I want to thank the both of you. I think you have a wonderful podcast. I like how you have the feedback with your audience. I like the subjects that you talk about, and particularly you, Rob, when you're on 4R Nerds and you're doing those panels. I feel like you're my surrogate, because there are things that I want to say when you have those panels. And a lot of times you be having the exact same opinion that I have. Like when you were on the Last of Us panel,
Yeah.
and you were talking about how you play. I have not played The Last of Us as often as you have. Like, I'm not playing it every year. There are too many games on my backlog that I got to get to. My son had blessed the family with a PlayStation 5. I was like, where'd you get the money from? He claimed that he worked and saved his money. I'm kind of dubious on that, but I'm going to go ahead and believe him.
He was down at Zeus's pawn shop giving up radio.
Right. But the thing is that I don't even really have time to play the games on the PlayStation 5 that I want to play, because I'm trying to work through my PlayStation 4 catalogs, and I got a couple of games that I'm trying to play on Xbox Game Pass. It's just too much. But the fact that you're able to play it over and over again and able to follow the plot of The Last of Us point for point, is able to have that conversation with Ben Amin, is just awesome. And I love that. And I feel like, that's what I would have said. Or like when, sometimes you're on the superhero panels and you're talking about some of those things, and I'm like, that's what I would have said. That's exactly how I feel. So that's another reason why I'm so pleased that you're on the show. I feel like we're of like mind.
I feel like I go on there as the representative of the people that like things. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I love all this stuff. I know that things have issues and not everyone's gonna be happy with everything. Obviously, that's fine. But generally, I just love all this stuff. And whenever they have me on, I always worry that I'm gonna wear out my welcome, or someone's gonna.
I know they're gonna
God
like,
damn it,
we ain't gonna invite them
Why
back
don't you
no
hate
more?
it too? But then, too, sometimes I wonder if certain parts of the audience get tired of that. So it's always dope to hear somebody that digs it, because that's my natural vibe, is to come on and more. I'm more looking to have fun than to bang on the stuff. So I'm glad that you enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that Tatiana Ali and Ben Amin, I think they love you, and
they
that's
do.
why you are always
I love them
on
too,
the show.
man. They for real, day ones. That's the other thing. Anytime they invite me on, if I can make time, I always make the time. Just because it's them. I wouldn't necessarily do that for everybody, but they, sometimes they'll hit me up on a Saturday night, can you do this Sunday? I'm like, yeah, I got you, because I love what they do.
Right. Yeah, I like I said, I've been a fan of that show for a long time, even though I sometimes am unruly and critical about it. But most of the time, I absolutely love that show.
I feel
I love what they're doing with The Last of Us. I remember
critical.
Go ahead.
I feel like they're critical, so their fans are going to sometimes be critical. It's a balancing act. I think they know that when they know they're putting their opinion out there on some nerd stuff, and that nerds like to fight. So they, I think
they do.
Sometimes I feel like Ben be looking forward to it. Sometimes he be looking
right.
He'll hit sometimes.
And I know that he was, I think on Twitter, I think I had an exchange with him where he was a little bit ambivalent on doing what he calls the Lack of Us podcast. And I was one of those people like, man, I think you should do it,
Right.
right? And he decided to do it, and he had you on, so that was pretty awesome. I love the commentary that they have, and I'm glad that he's enjoying that show. How about you, Karen? I haven't heard anything from you regarding that show. Are you watching it as well?
Yes, I haven't watched the most recent episode because I think it came out like on Friday or something like that. But like on HBO, the app. But I actually enjoy that show. I have never played it. I watch a lot of games vicariously through Roderick and actually just yell and scream and get scared in the background. And like, I am the audience. So, I am like the non-playable character that's actually not in the game type of thing. But even with that, I don't know the storyline as in depth as Roderick does. Because, a lot of times he plays it repeatedly and he's played it without me. So there are things that I've missed. So for me, I'm going in blind, and I'm fine with going in blind, and I've been having myself a ball. The stories is beautiful. Like, there are some things that I know just from watching him play, but there are some things that I don't know, and even with that, it's two genres, like with The Walking Dead. Me and Roger read all the Walking Dead comics, and they had a Walking Dead TV show, and the thing is, there are some plot points, but I like you twisting and changing it. Don't give me the same thing you gave me before. As somebody that has consumed the product, because they're two different genres and two different platforms. So show me what you can do on this platform that you wasn't able to do in the video game. And, so far look like some of the things they have, but like building things like that. So, for me, I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. For some people, they got mad and upset because they quote unquote didn't follow it, but I don't want them to follow the same story. It's a different platform. You can actually go in more depth with this than you can, because what you got like a series of shows versus we kind of are condensed. So for me, I've really been enjoying the show.
That's pretty awesome. So you haven't seen the latest episode. No. So, but I don't know. I don't remember like the exact plot exactly because it's been so long since I played. I think I played it like 2 years ago, or maybe even longer than that. But I do know the broad strokes. So in episode 5, I knew the broad strokes was going to happen, and I'm just waiting for it to happen. And when it happens, it affects you, right? So, and Rod, did you see the last episode?
Yeah, I've seen the last one, man. And I mean, it's honestly, it's just so great the way that they're putting the time and the money and into the show, but it's also the changes they're making with the characters that are just making it even more like heart touching. So and it's it's basically an empathy simulator, and it's just a whole world of like loss, and just if you change the perspectives, how do you feel? And they're nailing that part, and that's the most important part. So I won't spoil anything, but yeah, I can't wait for you to watch it, Karen. It's really great.
Yay, I can't wait. I'll probably end up watching it.
Hit you like a hammer.
I'm really looking forward to it, and it's gonna be interesting to see where they go from here and what they do. And I'm interested to see the different styles of the creatures, because the creatures trip me out, particularly with the first one that popped up with his face like split like a cauliflower. I looked down, I was like, what is that?
The way they look, the way they move, the sound, the clicking sound, especially with the clickers, yeah, they're all great. The next episode, excellent zombie action.
Okay.
The one you haven't seen yet. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
and just real quick,
we did a little
real quick.
Go ahead.
Another show that prides itself on having a lot of practical effects in the shows.
Oh, this one,
The Last of Us. Like, if you stay after the credits, they tell you about some of the filming of it. And when you see how they filmed their, clickers and all that stuff, it just makes so much. You're like, oh, that's why, because y'all really did blow up that house with that truck. Like that wasn't like something you put in later. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I feel like explosions in general are going to stick with Hollywood for a long time.
Yep.
So, thank you for joining us for our little conversation to The Last of Us. So, one last time, if you like the show, then tell your friends about us, and please help us grow, as I asked before. And I know that you've enjoyed our guests, Rod and Karen, so please check out the Black Guy Who Tips podcast to keep up with the culture and current events and game theory with Babami Jones on HBO. Believe me, it matters. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones. And if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.